close enough. Act 2, Scene 2. So we left off with Polonius determining, based on what Ophelia told him, that Hamlet was mad for love, and kind of says, it's my fault, I told you to, etc. And before we go on, since we're talking about quote-unquote madness, though this isn't necessarily madness, a student in my previous class asked me to just let everybody know about this. Dealing with depression, if you are dealing with depression, 216 East Main Street, November 7th, 6 p.m., college seminar with Johnny Trail, whoever that is. This is the East Main Street Church of Christ having some kind of seminar dealing with depression. Okay, so Act 2, Scene 2 picks up. Notice every time the king comes in, you get this flourish. I mean, he enjoys the trappings of kingship. So he brings in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, okay? And he says, lines 4, something have you heard of Hamlet's transformation, so call it, sith nor the exterior nor the inward man resembles that it was. What it should be, more than his father's death, that thus hath put him so much from the understanding of himself. What's he saying? You've heard that Hamlet's kind of a changed man, okay? It can't be his father's death. There's something else involved. What it is, line 10, I cannot dream of. Okay? So he says, buy your companies, go kind of hang around with him, draw him on to pleasures, and see what you can figure out. And they agree to. In line 33 or so, the king says, thanks, Rosencrantz and gentle Guildenstern. And the queen says, thanks, Guildenstern and gentle Rosencrantz. Why does Shakespeare do that? Why does he have one say Rosencrantz, gentle Guildenstern, and the other say Guildenstern and gentle Rosencrantz? By the way, Tom Stoppard, if you've never read it, Tom Stoppard's 1960s play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, is based on Hamlet. Because they're interchangeable. It doesn't matter which one really you call Rosencrantz and which one you call Guildenstern. They're stock characters, they're flat characters, they don't have any depth to them. They're there for one purpose, to later on be hoisted with their own petard, as Hamlet will put it. Okay? So, Polonius comes in. And Polonius says, I think I found the cause of Hamlet's lunacy. 49. Tell me, king asks. Gertrude comes in, and he tells Gertrude he's found the source of Hamlet's distemper. And she says, I think it's his father's death and the fact that we got married too fast. Well, we'll see. Voltaman comes in. We're going to skip Voltaman. So Polonius comes back in. Line 86. Okay, now remember, whenever Polonius speaks, always bear in mind Polonius's advice to his son. Just always, keep that in the table of your mind, as Hamlet would put. My liege and madam, to expostulate what majesty should be, what duty is, why day is day, night, and time is time, were nothing but to waste night, day, and time. Therefore, since brevity is the soul of wit, which notice Polonius doesn't have, okay, and tediousness the limbs and outward flourishes, I will be brief. Your noble son is mad. Mad call I it, for to define true madness, what is it but to be nothing else but mad? But let more matter with less art. More matter. Get to the point. More substance, less rhetoric. Okay? He says, I'm not using any rhetoric. I'm not using any art. He's mad. Okay? And he says, perpend. Consider. Think on this. 106. I have a daughter, have while she is mine. And there, so much Shakespeare's wrapped up right there. Fathers and daughters and the issues thereof. Okay? Have while she is mine, who in her duty and obedience, Mark, hath given me this. And so he shows them a letter. Now gather and come around and listen. And so he reads some of the letter. To the celestial and my soul's idol, the most beautified Ophelia. It's an ill phrase, a vile phrase. Beautified. Made beautiful. He says, so he goes on. Okay? So he says, he finishes reading the letter, and he says, this in obedience, line 125, hath my daughter shown me, and more above, hath his solicitings, as they fell out by time, by means of place, all given to mine ear. King, how hath she received his love? Received, past tense. So how did she listen to him? How has she taken him? What do you think of me? Polonius says. Now, that doesn't answer the question. Man faithful and honorable? I would fain prove so. But what might you think when I had seen this hot love on the wing, as I perceived it? What might you, or my queen, think if I had played the desk or table book, or given my heart a winking, mute and dumb, or looked upon this love with idle sight? What would you think if I knew about this and didn't do anything? That's his point. He says, no. As soon as I learned, I went round to work, and my young mistress, thus I did bespeak. I told her, Hamlet is a prince out of thy star. Out of thy star. Her orbit. Her orbit's way down here. Hamlet's orbit's much bigger, obviously, because he's a prince, but he's so far out of your reach, honey. Just give it up. So he says, I gave her prescriptions, thou shalt nots, that she should lock herself from his resort, admit no messengers, receive no tokens, etc., etc. He did, she did, and he fell into a madness, then into a fast, thence to a watch, thence into a weakness, thence to a lightness, and by this declension into the madness wherein now he raves. Okay, do you think so? Could be. The king asked that of Gertrude. He doesn't ask Polonius. Why is he asking this of Gertrude?
Because
she's his mother. She would know. Yeah, could be. Polonius. Have I ever been wrong? Have I ever lied to you? Hath there been such a time, I would fain know, that I positively said 'tis so, and it's been wrong? Not that I know. Take this from this. And usually, in many texts, there is a comment in parentheses in italics. Take this, he points to his head, from this, he points to his body. Kill me if I'm wrong. Okay? A little bit of dramatic irony there. Because the king's not going to kill him, but Hamlet is. Why? Because he is wrong. He's totally wrong. King, 159. How may we try it further? Try, test, prove. You know, sometimes he walks 4 hours together here in the lobby. Lobby is a long gallery, a long hall. Yeah. At such a time, I'll look at the verb he uses. I'll loose my daughter to him. When you talk about loosing something on something else, usually what are you referring to? Yeah. I'm going to set my dogs loose on him. So he's going to set loose his daughter onto Hamlet. And he says, be you and I, so think of the stagecraft. Here's the stage. Here's the tiring house behind it, a couple of columns, roof, and you've got door and door. Okay. Now, over these doors, probably, or blocking these doors, let me read it. Door, curtains. Okay. So he says, be you and I behind an arras den. Mark the encounter. If he love or not, and be not from his reason fallen thereon, let me be no assistant. And they go, oh, there's Hamlet. Okay. So Polonius, go hide. I'll board him presently. Board, that's a Navy term. It's a nautical term used in warfare. It's when you take your ship alongside the other ship that you want to capture and you throw what we typically call a gangplank over. It's got spikes on the end to go into the other ship's railing. And then you run across to capture it. This is what he's saying he's going to do to Hamlet. Okay? So, Hamlet comes in. The king and queen are gone. And Polonius, how does my good Lord Hamlet? Well, God of mercy. You know me, my lord. Excellent, well, you are a fishmonger. Your gloss tells you fishmonger, fish merchant. Okay? Not I. Then I would you were so honest a man. What? Why is a fishmonger an honest person? What do you go to a fish restaurant for? Fish. You don't go for steak, unless it's a surf and turf kind of place, you know. Honest, my lord? Aye, sir, to be honest as this word goes, was to be one man picked out of 10,000. 1 out of 10,000 men is honest. We had the line in Midsummer Night's Dream, 1 out of 1,000,000. Okay? Really loves truly. That's true. For the sun breed maggots in a dead dog, being a good kissing carrion. So Hamlet goes from being a fish seller to being honest to the sun breeds maggots in dead dogs. Have you a daughter? Well, let's go back to how does the sun breed maggots in dead dogs? This is back when they believed in what's called spontaneous generation. After all, there's a dead dog lying by the side of the road. Nothing happens to the dead dog, but it lays there for a few days, and what do you start to see in it? Maggots all over. How'd the maggots get there? The sun impregnated the carcass. And the maggots are what comes from that impregnation. Have you a daughter? I have, my lord. Let her not walk in the sun. If the sun breeds maggots in a dead dog, what's it going to do to your daughter? Conception is a blessing. But as your daughter may conceive, friend, look to it. Okay? Polonius. Still harping on my daughter. But he didn't know me at first. Said I was a fishmonger. He's far gone. And yet, in my youth, I suffered much extremity for love. Very near this. Now notice, that tells us a hell of a lot more about Polonius than it does about Hamlet. Because Hamlet's doing what? Pretending. Putting on an antic disposition. What did he tell us just before the end of his previous scene? If you see me do such and such, don't give it out, because from here on out, I may put on an antic disposition. So, Polonius kind of changes the direction of the conversation. What's that you're reading, my lord? Words. Well, that would be what one reads. What's the matter? He means substance. Between who? Hamlet takes what's the matter to mean there's a conflict between people. No, I mean the matter that you read. It's Hamlet tells him. And he says, it's satire. Says old men have gray beards, your faces are wrinkled, all of which is true, right? So which Hamlet says, all which, sir, though I most powerfully and potently believe, yet I hold it not honestly to have it thus set down. For yourself sure shall grow as old as I am. Hamlet's not nearly as old as Polonius. So how can Polonius grow as old as Hamlet? Polonius, though this be madness, yet there is method in it. Method. There's reason, there's structure, there's order. But madness doesn't work according to reason, structure, and order. Madness is, as Theseus puts it, the mad person sees devils everywhere and has his eyes rolling. So he asks Hamlet, will you walk out of the air, my lord? That is, maybe Hamlet will feel better if we walk out onto the balcony. We got into the nice, brisk, fresh, clear, air of Denmark. Will you walk out of the air, my lord, into my grave? Well, that's out of the air, right? Because if you go into the ground, that's out of the air. How pregnant sometimes his replies are. Pregnant, full of meaning. Is the meaning declared? No. Is the baby known while pregnant? No. It's only after the birth. I most humbly take my leave of you. You cannot, sir, take from me anything that I will more willingly part withal. I take my leave from you. That's just proper language. He's just being courteous. Hamlet says, you can't take anything that I would more willingly give. Get the hell away from me. Accept my life. Accept my life. Accept my life. This is Hamlet putting in Polonius's mind, I'm crazy. This is why Mel Gibson should have been perfect for this, even though he's too old by the time he did the film. So Rosencrantz and Guildenstern come in. Okay, what is their job? According to Gertrude and Claudius. Well, let me back up. What did Polonius, just before Hamlet came out, what did Polonius say he would do and he would have, that he would do with Ophelia, or he would have Ophelia do, and he and Claudius would do while Ophelia is doing her part? He says, you and I will stand behind an heiress, right? And I will loose my daughter to him. So what are they going to do behind the heiress? Listen and probably watch, right? Because you can see through cloth. Okay? They're going to spy. So he has this little scene with Hamlet, and then Rosencrantz and Guildenstern come out. What is their purpose? To figure out what's wrong with Hamlet. They're spying, in other words. So, they come in, and Hamlet says to 22 or so, my excellent good friends, how dost thou, Guildenstern, Rosencrantz, how do you do both, as the indifferent children of the earth, ordinary at neither extreme of fortune or misfortune. Your gloss tells you for indifferent. Guildenstern, happy in that we are not over happy. On fortune's cap, we are not the very button. Again, Stoic ideas. You want to maintain an even keel. You don't want to get too happy. Why? Because bad things are going to happen and they're going to take you down. You don't want to be too sad. So, on fortune's cap, we are not the very button. Fortune's cap, meaning here's fortune. That's where her cap would be. We're not at the top. It's never good to be up here. Wheel's going to keep on turning. Hamlet. Nor the soles of her shoe. So you're not down here either. So life doesn't suck for you. Neither, my lord. Oh, then you live about her waist, or in the middle of her favors. Here. Guildenstern. Faith, her privates we. We live about her privates. Right? Because head, toe, middle. In the secret parts of fortune, oh, most true, she is a strumpet. A whore, a slut. Why is fortune a slut?
She's with everybody.
Bingo. She sleeps with everything. People, bottles, computers, floors, buildings, time. Doesn't even have to move. What news? What's up? Why are you here? No. Here's the news. World's grown honest. Well, that would be news, right? Hamlet, then it's doomsday. Then it's the end of the world. That's not true. Why are you here? What have you, my good friends, deserved at the hands of fortune that she sends you to prison hither. Prison? Denmark's a prison. Then it's the world one. A goodly one. Many confines, wards, and dungeons. Denmark being one of the worst. Denmark's a prison. England's a prison. Norway's a prison. We think not so, my lord. Why then 'tis none to you. For there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Now, books have been written about that one line. Because, I mean, that in and of itself, that just brings in all of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle just in one line. There is nothing good or ill, but thinking makes it so. What's meant by thinking there? How about attitude? Approach. Okay? To me, it's prison. That is, my thinking makes Denmark a prison. So Rosencrantz tries to tell us what Hamlet is thinking, why his thinking makes it so. Well, then your ambition makes it one. Oh, this is why it's a prison for you. You want to be king. Well, leaving for the moment, he should be king since his father's dead. 'Tis too narrow for your mind. Hamlet, oh God. I could be bounded in a nutshell and count myself a king of infinite space. Bounded in a nutshell. So here's a walnut. Okay? Hamlet says, I could be in there and I could think of myself king of infinite space. What's the problem? I have bad dreams. What? What the hell is Hamlet / Shakespeare talking about? Where do the bad dreams come from? Outside the nutshell. I could count myself a king of infinite space. Well, what does infinite imply? There's no ending to it. But he has the bad dreams don't come from that infinite space. They come from somewhere else. This is the idea Hamlet's going to pick up on in Act 3, Scene 1 in the famous to be or not to be speech. Okay? This shows us Hamlet is wrestling with some deep philosophical issues. Which dreams indeed are ambition? See, that's your problem. You want to be more than you are. The very substance of the ambitious is merely the shadow of a dream. And we've got language from Midsummer Night's Dream there. Okay? So, the substance of the ambitious, the thing that creates the ambitious, is what? A shadow of a dream. A dream is what? It's insubstantial, right? It has no substance. So how can it have a shadow? It can't. See, is that Rosencrantz or Guildenstern? It's Guildenstern. That doesn't logically make sense. What Hamlet is saying logically makes sense. Hamlet, the dream itself is but a shadow. And Hamlet turns the phrase around. It's not the shadow of a dream. He says a dream is a shadow. How can a dream be a shadow? What is a shadow, first of all?
Absence of light.
It's a cast of ourselves, but a non-whole version of it.
Okay. It is something that is cast by light being blocked by something else, right? So you have a light. Here's the sun shining off. Here's something. Down here's the ground. And the light hits this, and the light keeps going here, and the light keeps going here. But where this is, you have the shadow. Hamlet says, a dream, this is the dream, is but itself a shadow. What's the source, the real source of the dream?
It's in the way of light.
Yeah. It's whatever this is. So notice what the dream/shadow implies. There are at least two other things. That is, this is ultimate reality. This is the reality we perceive. Anybody know the source of this idea? We are back in Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Okay? Well, Plato puts in the mouth of Socrates this story of a cave. So you have the cave. This is why I never finish anything. You have a cave, looks kind of like this. Okay. Over here, you've got a fire burning. Okay. And I'll make sure I do this correctly. It has an entrance. You come down here, and you have people sitting here. People sitting here. So they're sitting on chairs, and they're facing this direction. And you have a wall. Okay, so you have people sitting here, facing this wall, and there's a path that comes down here. And here you have other people walking around doing things, carrying things. All right? So the fire creates what? Light. The light hits these people and does what? Casts their shadows here. All right? These people only see this. They don't see what's going on here. They don't see or hear what's going on here. All right? So for these people, this all represents what? This is their reality. This is all they know of reality. This has been redone, by the way. I'll talk about it in just a moment. So, Plato says, okay, so now imagine, this is our experience. We are all chained, essentially, like this. And what we think of reality are merely impressions that we are seeing. But take for a moment this person, remove the bonds, the chains, and take the person outside the cave. Because outside the cave, you have the real sun, or the real light. And what does the person experience? Out here, real people, real trees, real markers, real water bottles and water, real paper, real books. Their experience here is of what? The image of a book, the image of a marker, the image of a chair. How do we know this is an image of a chair and not the real chair? Because compare this one with that one. They're not the same, right? They're copies. All chairs that we see around us all have the quality of chairness, right? And all chairs have got to have what? A thing to sit on, right? Do all chairs have a back? Yes, that actually is one of the qualities of chairness. If it doesn't have a back, what does it become? A stool or a seat. Similarly, all tables have what qualities? At least two. One, top. What else? Legs. Because if it doesn't have legs, it's a door that's laying horizontally. Okay? So those are all the things out here in the world of forms, or the other thing it's called ideals. So Hamlet is saying, yeah, those dreams that I would have if I were bound in a nutshell and counted myself a king of infinite space, those dreams are telling me what? There's more to life than what I see. There's more than just this. He's a Platonist, in other words. So, Guildenstern said, your ambition, it's the shadow of a dream. He goes, no, you got that completely wrong. Because the dream is the shadow of something else. And that's also kind of getting at Claudius. He's the shadow of a king. He's not a real king. Dad, he was a shadow too. He was a better shadow. He was a more complete shadow, a more perfect shadow of the ultimate king. Okay? This is why Plato / Socrates said, ultimately, there is a single God in all of the pantheon of Greek gods. I mean, this is why Socrates was put to death. They're what? They're shadows. Socrates said, Zeus and Hera and Athena, they're all us. Just blown up. Just magnified. Okay? So, Rosencrantz. Truly, and I hold ambition of so airy and light a quality. There's Theseus talking. I mean, it's the same kind of language that Theseus used. I hold ambition of so airy and light a quality that it is but a shadow's shadow. Okay, so Rosencrantz here says, ambition is what? Nothing. It's a shadow's shadow. He's like saying, I get up in the morning and what do I want to do? Nothing. He has no ambition. He's just going to cruise. Hamlet. Then are our beggars' bodies and our monarchs and outstretched heroes the beggars' shadows. That is, if there's no ambition, then we don't have really any monarchs. Because you have to desire in order to rise. Okay? Let's go to the court. We'll follow you. No, it's okay, Hamlet says. Why are you here? So he's asking it now a third time. What's your real purpose for being here? To visit you. And finally, Hamlet finally has enough of it. Come on, tell me. You were sent for, right? Right. My mom wants you to check on me, right? Any parallels to something we've seen earlier? What was Polonius doing before he spoke with at the end of Act 2, Scene 1? Before he spoke with Ophelia. He sent Reynaldo to go spy on his son. Claudius and Gertrude send Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to come spy on Hamlet. This is why Ophelia is going to say about Hamlet, in not too much longer, that he is the observed of all observers. I mean, I think, maybe you don't. We think we're coming to live in a surveillance society where everything's being watched, etc., etc. Not like Hamlet's society. Hamlet lives in the panopticon. Okay? The all-seeing eye. Right? Go to London. Yeah. Go to London. It's estimated the average person in London, just going about his or her daily business, is caught on CCTV. It's like over 4,000 times a day. A day. Why? Because every street corner there's CCTV cameras. That's how they were able to find out who the London bombers were in 2005 so quickly. I mean, within 24 hours. That's good, right? That's great. But what about those of us who aren't bombers, who just want to, be left alone and such? So, Hamlet says, no, I'll tell you why you were sought for. I have of late, I don't know why. Yes, he does. He's lying. Lost all my mirth, forgone all custom of exercises. That is, all the things I used to do daily He doesn't mean running and hitting the gym and all that kind of stuff. That's implied. I mean, that kind of exercise, physical activity is implied, but he means other exercises too, mental exercises, for example. And indeed, it goes so heavily with my disposition that this goodly frame, and he explains what that means, the earth, seems to me a sterile promontory. Okay, a promontory is something that sticks out. It's sterile. It's dead. This most excellent canopy, the air, look you, this brave overhanging firmament, this majestical roof fretted with gold and fire, why it appeareth nothing to me but a foul and pestilent congregation of vapors. Life's not so good for Hamlet. And he goes from the world, the natural world, to humanity. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculties. Infinite. Never ending. Just keeps reasoning, keeps thinking up new ideas. St. Anselm said, God has to really exist. Why? Because we cannot conceive of anything higher than God. And if it's just a basis of human faculty, we would keep going. We would keep being able to think of something higher than God. So, how infinite in faculties, in form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. In apprehension, how like a God. That's mental apprehension, understanding. The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. Paragon, the highest form of animal life. So notice what he's just done there. He's linked the godlike, great chain of being, with the animal-like. And yet, to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Quintessence. We are the purest form of dust. Why? Genesis. And Gad formed the man, and God formed the man out of the dust of the earth and breathed life into it. What is this quintessence of dust? Man delights not me. And then we get a stage direction, verbally. No, nor woman either, because they're going, yeah, that's pretty good. At least he's not gay. Though by your smiling you seem to say, we didn't mean that. Yes, you did. Okay? So, they talk about the players that they saw coming. There's an acting troupe coming. Okay? Hamlet says, good, I'm looking forward to seeing them. So we're going to skip a bunch, and the actors come in, along with Polonius. Okay? And he and Polonius talk a little bit about acting and such. Polonius mentions the kinds of plays that can be performed. Again, showing the kind of person Polonius is. And notice, by the way, the word that comes just before Polonius describes the kinds of plays that can be performed. Polonius says, 392, the actors are come hither, my lord, buzz, buzz. Upon my honor, then came each actor on his ass. Okay, Polonius, upon my honor, then they came on his ass. Hamlet is saying that Polonius's honor is an ass. Or you're full of you-know-what. So you get ass, and then Polonius is the next one who speaks. It's Shakespeare punning by putting those two words so together. And so what does Polonius say? The best actors in the world, either for tragedy, comedy, history, pastoral. Well, those are all different kinds of drama. Pastoral, comical, okay. You can have comedy set in the natural world. Historical, pastoral, you can have histories set in the natural world. Scene, indivisible, or poem unlimited. Oh, shut up. So, the players come in, and Hamlet asks the player if he can give a speech. Hamlet tells him which one. It's about Pyrrhus. And the first player, 469 and following, goes into this speech. I mean, he declaims these lines. And Polonius says, too long. Okay? So the first player goes again. Polonius doesn't like it. Hamlet does. We're told, 519, look where he has not turned his color and has tears in his eyes. Prithee, no more. Polonius is like, this is overacting. This is too much. Hamlet, 'tis good, 'tis well. I want to speak with you. Okay? He's going to tell us, he wants the first player, the actor, to do something for him. Okay? So, they all leave, and we're told Hamlet's alone. Bottom 1117, around 540, 546 or so. Everybody leaves. Now I am alone. Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I. Rogue. Like gone rogue. Gone against custom, gone against the law, gone against traditional morality, etc. Why? Because Hamlet looks at that player who's just essentially recited some lines, played a scene, and that player was able to do what?
Cry on cue.
Good actor. Cry on cue. Okay? For what purpose? For no purpose. That is, he was acting. He didn't have anything inside that would motivate that. But Hamlet says, but me? Yet I, 566, a dull and muddy mettled rascal, peak like John of Dreams, unpregnant of my cause, and can say nothing? That is, what did he tell his mother? I have that which passeth show. These but the trappings and the suits of woe. I've got real reason, Hamlet says. I can say nothing. No, not for a king, upon whose property and most dear life a damned defeat was made. Am I a coward? Who calls me villain? Breaks my pate across. That is, smacks me across the head. Plucks off my beard, which is a huge offense in Shakespeare's day and earlier, and blows it in my face. Tweaks me by the nose. Gives me the lie in the throat. That is, calls me a liar to my face. Shakespeare's day, them's fighting words. As deep as to who does this to me? Wounds, that is God's wounds. I should take it, for it cannot be, but I am pigeon-livered and lack gall to make oppression bitter. What's his point? If all these things happened, I would have to take it, because they are nothing compared to how I have been wronged. My father slain. 583. What an ass am I. This is most brave, that I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted to my revenge by heaven and hell. We'll stop and talk about that for just a moment. Must like a whore unpack my heart with words and fall a cursing, like a very drab. Prompted to his revenge by heaven and hell. How does heaven prompt him to revenge? Where does he read in his Psalter, in his prayer book, in his Bible? Vengeance is yours, Hamlet. Go and get it. Kill Claudius. It doesn't. Hell, yeah. Hell says to do that. And so he says, I've heard guilty creatures sitting at a play have by the very cunning of the scene been struck to the soul so presently that... And what does he do? He says, it may be the spirit that visited me, 599, may be the devil. And the devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape. And maybe out of my weakness and my melancholy, he wants to damn me. Maybe what I've seen is designed to send me to hell for murder. So he says what? I'm going to test the spirit. How? By testing Claudius. I'm going to write a scene. The place, the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. I'll write a play, I'll include a scene, and if Claudius starts or jumps or acts guilty as a result, I will know he's guilty, the ghost is true, I am justified if I do what I need to do. Okay? 3-1. The king comes in with the queen, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. They tell him some stuff. They talk about the players. Okay? Rosencrantz and Guildenstern leave, and the king's left with Polonius. Ophelia comes in, and the king says, line 29, we have closely sent for Hamlet hither that he, as 'twere by accident, just chance, may here affront Ophelia, her father and myself, lawful espials. Why would they be lawful spies? What can the president? It doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or Barack Obama or George Bush or Ronald Reagan or any president. What can any president do with any quote-unquote national secret? Declassify it. That is the president's prerogative. Okay? So, he's saying it's lawful because I say it's lawful. We will do what? We will bestow ourselves that seeing unseen, we will see, but we will be unseen. We may of their encounter frankly judge and gather by him as he has behaved, if it's love or not. Queen says, I'll obey you. She goes, oh, Ophelia, I sure hope it's love. Notice, when the queen says that, is she implying anything? Okay, keep going. Does she say, oh, Ophelia, I really hope it is because he's in love with you, but it's too bad because you could never marry? No. If anything, the implication is, this will be good. It's almost like she looks at Ophelia as good daughter-in-law material. We'll bring him to his wonted way again, so I hope your virtues will bring him to his wonted way again, to both your honors. To both your honors means Hamlet to the honor he should normally have, and I think it means to her honor to elevate you. She would be honored by the relationship, she, Ophelia, with Hamlet. Okay? And Ophelia, I wish it may. I think that tells us an awful lot right there about Ophelia. Yeah, I hope Hamlet gets back into his right mind. I liked him better when he loved me. Some say that Ophelia doesn't love Hamlet. Nonsense. Or that Hamlet doesn't love Ophelia because he's going to say, I love thee not. Guess what he's doing when he says that? Lying. For her good. He's doing that to protect her. Okay? So, Polonius, Ophelia, walk you here. Here's the stage. Tiring house. Okay? Door, Eris. So, he says, Ophelia, walk you here. Now, where does he tell Ophelia to walk? Does he say front and center? We don't know. We're not told. All we are told is that somewhere on this stage, I'm going to take the column and overhang off for a moment. Somewhere on this stage, Ophelia is. It might be out here. It might be she's picking her nose over here in the corner. And Hamlet comes out this way and he's he looks stage left, and so he doesn't see her. I don't think so, because I think there is a stage direction for Hamlet. Okay? Walk you here, gracious so please you. And he gives her a book. Here, read you this. Probably, I'm reading into this here, probably some kind of religious prayerful text, like, Richard III walks around with. Okay? That show of such an exercise may color your loneliness. Show of such an exercise there probably implies religious, meditational exercise. She's reading a book of Psalms, in other words. Okay? We are oft to blame in this, 'tis too much proved, that with devotion's visage and pious action we do sugar o'er the devil himself. And Claudius is like, damn, that hurt. Okay? Why? How smart a lash that speech doth give my conscience. The harlot's cheek beautied with plastering art. The harlot, the slut's cheek, covered over with makeup. Why would her cheek need to be covered over with makeup? Does she walk around like, Hester Prynne with a big old A on her face? No. Probably, I'm not 100% sure, but what would be a mark, a physical mark possibly, of a prostitute in Shakespeare's day? Okay, but that's not one that you would see from a distance. What's the conception of beauty? So what could cause this to not be white anymore? Okay.
Other way, right? So
think Beach Boys, California Girls.
It's worked in the sun.
Tan. Darker skin. Totally different from our 21st century idea, right? So you take that color you get from walking in the sun. See, hookers in Shakespeare's day didn't only work at night. I mean, it's a full-time job, so to speak. So you're a streetwalker. You walk during the day. You get sunlight on you. And how do you re-get that image of beauty back? Plastering art. You put a bunch of makeup on. So, Claudius, the harlot's cheek, beautified with plastering art, is not more ugly to the thing that helps it than is my deed to my most painted word. So now, that tells us, because that's an aside to the audience, what about Claudius? The ghost isn't lying. That's our first proof. The ghost has said an awful lot, right? Do we have any proof? Nope. Claudius just gave us the proof. Plenty. Oh, I hear him coming. Let's hide. So they withdraw. Do they withdraw all the way through? Do they go off the stage into the tiring house? Not according to what Polonius said earlier. He said, we will stand behind an arras. Because if they're in the tiring house, where are they physically within the world of the play? They're gone. They're out of earshot. They're out of eyeshot. They're gone. They're in another room, so to speak. Okay? But if they're behind the arras, they're still physically there. They can still hear. They can still see. So when Hamlet comes and starts the speech, there are at least 3 people on the stage. Ophelia, Claudius, Polonius, they have to be by the same arras, and Hamlet comes out.
That's a quick question.
Yeah.
This is side with the king and Polonius. Does Polonius hear what the king says? Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Whenever there's an aside,
It's only the same.
only the audience hears it. And an aside works like a soliloquy. Okay? It reveals what that individual is really thinking. Which is why I thought it was strange in the first scene that we have with Hamlet and Gertrude and Claudius, that it wasn't marked as an aside when Hamlet says, more kin than, how do you put it? Little more than kin and less than kind. That's usually taken as an aside. Okay? So Hamlet comes out. And there's Ophelia somewhere walking. If I were directing, Hamlet comes out this door, I would have Hamlet because he's melancholic, right? What are we told? He walks around with veiled lids. He's looking at the ground. I'd have him come out and just briefly, ever so briefly, look up so that he sees Ophelia. Why? Because I think, I could be wrong, everything Hamlet says in this speech is intended to be heard. Not by the audience, but by Ophelia. Why? Because Hamlet knows everything she hears, Polonius will hear. Hamlet knows by now he's being observed. His two friends were sent for from Wittenberg. They were taken out of school to come back. And we've already seen Ophelia do what? She's closed off her door to him. Something's not right there. So, to be or not to be, that is the question. And I really encourage you, get online, get on YouTube, and watch several different versions of this. Of this, just this scene. Because there are some really, really good ones. Laurence Olivier's is definitely not one of the better ones, in my opinion. Tom Hiddleston's isn't bad. David Tennant's is really good. I'm trying to remember there's a black English actor whose name totally just, and his is really good. And if you can watch Richard Burton's, his just knocks it out of the park. Okay? To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing in them. Notice, period, stop. Okay? So, colon at the end of the first line, and then you have a run-on line. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, take a breath, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing in them. Notice the single idea, really, that's whether 'tis nobler and ends with in them. What's the idea? Fight against the problems or take them. Take what comes. That's the suffering. Or fight and end them. How do you end a sea of troubles? To die, we're back at the first line, to sleep. Why to die to sleep? Well, sleep is an image of death. Sleep is an emblem of death. After all, requiescit in pacem, rest in peace. Rest implies sleep. We say so-and-so fell asleep in the Lord. Christians often do. Or so-and-so, etc. To die, to sleep, no more. No more. What's that mean? The end. Finality. No more what? No more slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. No more troubles. And by sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. Notice what he puts first. Heartache. Why? Because the blankety blank did what? She broke up with me. What has she done? She closed off all avenues. Okay? She doesn't talk to him anymore. She doesn't go out with him anymore. I think that's the heartache that he's talking about. And he wants her to hear. Do you realize what you've done to me? The heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. What are the natural shocks? Is there a gloss down there? Not really. The problems of the flesh, pains, aches. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. And I think he mentions consummation there because the word consummation has multiple meanings, right? You can have a marriage consummation. That's not a shock to the flesh. It's not a painful thing for the flesh. It's a pleasurable thing, especially coming up after heartache. But it's also what? An ending, a completion. Christ on the cross, the last thing he says, according to the Latin version, consummatum est. It is consummated. It's fulfilled. It's completed. It doesn't just mean it's the end. He means the whole reason for coming, done. Did my job. It's a consummation devoutly to be wished. What's the consummation? Sleep. No more. No more problems. No more slings and arrows. No more stale promontories. Okay? To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. Why? Back over here, because dreams are what? They're shadows. And if they're shadows, then there's got to be something making the shadow. Aye, to sleep, to dream, to sleep, perchance to dream, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, great movie, what dreams may come. Cuba Gooding Jr., Robin Williams, fantastic film. What dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, the flesh, must give us pause. Thinking of the dreams that may come when we die, that must give us pause. Well, sometimes when we die, we don't have any choice, do we? So what's he talking about? When you do have a choice. So thinking of those dreams, that should make us go, okay, so should I? And I may tell a story in just a moment about somebody very recently. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. There's the respect. Respect of what? What dreams may come. That sometimes, that thought, that respect makes a long life calamitous. It makes the person do what? To suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time? Notice, time, not individuals. Time. You guys are all young. I'm thinking of possibly getting knee replacement, maybe both in December. Why? Because time has taken its, and miles and other stuff, have taken its toll on me. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time? So that's one thing. What else? The oppressor's wrong. Okay? Notice the oppressor is always implied doing what? Wrong. If you are oppressed, it's Shakespeare saying, that is always wrong. Okay? The proud man's contumely. What's contumely? Looking down his nose at you. The proud man looking arrogantly down at the little person. The pangs of disprized love. And again, if I were directing, I'd say, when you say that, kind of glance over at Ophelia. Make sure she hears that part, The law's delay, because justice delayed is what? Justice denied. We could pull up the names of people who have been declared innocent after they've been murdered, after they've been executed by the state. Well over 200 in the last 20 years. Okay? The insolence of office, that means people in official positions who are insolent towards others, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin. Who would allow any of these things to happen when he could pull out a nice little dagger and just go? Why would you go on living through all of this if you could stop it? Who would fardels bear? Fardels are burdens. To grunt and sweat under a weary life, but at the dread of something after death. The Star Trek movie, Undiscovered Country, from whose bourne no traveler returns. Right? How many people you know who died on an operating table, on a gurney, brain dead, heart dead, 20, 30 minutes, come back? There are accounts of people who are like that. There are accounts of people who've been wheeled literally down to the morgue and put in the refrigerator. And they get ready for an autopsy and don't cut into me, okay? But they never tell what. The most that you could hear from any quote-unquote life after death story is what? I saw a light. It was fuzzy. It's never crystal clear. It's always, use St. Paul's language, through a glass darkly. Okay? He says, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns does what? It puzzles the will. Will here has nothing to do with sex. It has everything to do with volition. How do you puzzle volition? How many of you have been, just raring to go at something, and something stops you in your tracks? You were planning on doing it, and something makes you stop. I have lots of times. Whether that thing was a quote-unquote good thing or a bad thing. Okay? Something happens, and you kind of go, should I? And makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all. Conscience. What's conscience? It's that little voice. I love the way the Bugs Bunny Warner Brothers cartoons put it. The nice little angel on the right shoulder, and then you got the little devil angel on the left shoulder. Conscience, the thing that says, don't do that. It makes cowards. And thus the native hue of resolution. What's the native hue of resolution? Anybody here ever have a flat tire? Ever have a car run out of gas and you're in the lane? What do you have to do? You got to get out and push it over. I've had that happen before. Maybe by yourself. You got to push it over to the shoulder. Well, what happens when you have to push a very heavy weight by yourself? Your face turns red. That's the native hue of resolution. That's being determined to do something. What happens to that native hue? It's sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought. Why does thought have a pale cast? I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. I think Shakespeare's talking about scholars, English professors, who typically haven't done a day's real work in their lives. Okay? Real work meaning what? Outside in the sun. Scholars in his day were known for their ink-stained fingers, okay, and they smelled a little bit like the lamp, kerosene lamps, oil lamps. Why? Because they're inside copying books and writing down wise sayings and et cetera, et cetera. And enterprises of great pitch and moment. Great pitch. That's like great degree. I mean, if I can do this, this will be really, really big. Enterprises of great pitch and moment with disregard, conscience, their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. Oh, look, there's Ophelia. See, I think oh, look, there's Ophelia. That's sarcasm. What? Soft you now, the fair Ophelia. It's like I see you hiding over there behind that book. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered. So he addresses her. What does he address her as? A goddess. A nymph is a goddess. But it also means young girl. So he's either goddess or young girl, what? In your prayers, remember all my sins. Does that mean that he's asking her to go, oh, dear Jesus, and remember all of Hamlet's sins? Because that wouldn't be very nice. You know? He's saying, pray for me. Good, my lord, how does your honor this many a day? Well, she knows how does his honor this many a day, because she hasn't been talking to him this many a day. Humbly thank you. Well. Oh, let me go back for, do I have time? 10:52. I don't really, so I'll skip it. I can tell you a really cool story about Jordan Peterson and a guy who's going to commit suicide. Maybe it'll come up another time. So, she says, I have remembrances of yours. And she pulls out of her pocket all these papers, these letters and songs that he's written to her. Okay? I've longed to deliver them. Not mine, never gave you aught. My honored lord, you know right well you did. And with them, oh man, words are so sweet, breath composed. In other words, Hamlet's a talker. Oh, he doesn't have to do dinner and flowers and cards. He just talks and she's ready to. Has made the things more rich. Their perfume lost. That is, the words no longer mean anything. Take them back. Are you honest? My lord? What do you mean, am I honest? Are you fair? That is, are you beautiful? What do you mean? That if you be honest and fair, your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty. You got a gloss down there. Your honesty, your chastity. Are you honest? Are you chaste? It doesn't mean are you a virgin? Are you chaste? Are you virtuous? She's like, what? Okay, are you fair? Are you beautiful, etc.? Your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty. There should be no familiar dealings with your beauty. Familiar. Your chastity shouldn't be open to your beauty. Well, could beauty, my lord, have better commerce than with honesty? Shouldn't it go hand in hand, so to speak? He says, yes. For the power of beauty will sooner transform honesty from what it is to a bawd. Beauty will transform chasteness, chastity, from what it is, being chaste, to a bawd. That is, beauty will do what with chastity? What's a bawd? What's a madam for? What's a pimp for? Not pimp. Use madam. A brothel. She hires out girls, right? Okay. He's saying your honesty will do what with your chastity? It'll use it. Or your honesty will do what with your beauty? It'll use it to pimp you out. I did love you once. Notice the tense, the emphasis, did, past, once, past. It's also saying, I really loved you. You made me believe so. You should not have believed me. For virtue cannot so inoculate our old stock, but we shall relish of it. Virtue, virtuous living, virtuous ideals cannot inoculate our old stock. What's the old stock? The old Adam, the fleshly man. He's saying, virtue's good and all, but a horny guy, you can be virtuous, but it ain't going to stop him from what he wants. I was the more deceived. She's saying, I believed you loved me virtue. You weren't interested in me for sex, which is the problem, I think, with Kevin Brown's film. Because it's got Hamlet and Ophelia in the sheets. She's saying, I thought you loved me virtuously, chastely, honestly. That is, until marriagely, let's say. So, get thee to a nunnery. What? Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? Well, there we are. We're back to the old stock. St. Augustine essentially taught that original sin was promulgated through sex, which is why the Western world has had, and Western Christianity has had a big hang-up about sex ever since about 400 AD. Okay? Philip Pullman goes into this a lot in his Dark Materials books, because he's got real problems with sex also in Augustine. So, he says, I myself am indifferent honest, but I could accuse me such things that it were better my mother had not borne me. For example, I'm proud, revengeful, etc., etc. He says, what should such fellows as I do crawling between earth and heaven? Notice, crawling. Why crawling? Why not walking? What's he making of such fellows as himself? And who does he mean in that? All of the old Adam, which is really who? All men. And there I think he's being gender specific. Men. We men are pigs. We want one thing. It's sex. We are errant knaves, all. Believe none of us. And I could be wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. I think when Hamlet says, believe none of us, he is also saying, and don't believe me right now. In other words, he's speaking two levels. The one level is, don't trust men, me included. And then he says, believe none of us. Don't believe men, believe none. So when he says believe none of us, what does that do? That kind of cancels out the previous don't believe. Why? Go thy ways to a nunnery. Where's your father? Why does he keep telling her, go to a nunnery? What do nuns not do? Have sex, supposedly, or children. Why should she not have children? Because she will breed more of these, more of the old Adam, more of the old stock, sinners. Get thee to a nunnery. And then he brings up her father. What? Why? Because I think Hamlet knows exactly where Polonius and Claudius are. I think he knows. Either he knows where they are, or he knows every word he's saying is going to get back to him. And this is Hamlet telling Polonius via his daughter, don't mess with me. He's at home, my lord. Let the doors be shut upon him, that he may play the fool nowhere but in his own house. In his own house specifically means what? Not here. This is my house. Tell him to keep his nose out of my business. Farewell. Oh, help him, you sweet heavens. Well, okay, so if you are going to marry here, let me give you a blessing. I'll give you this plague for thy dowry. Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow, thou shalt not escape calumny. If you're the coldest, most frigid, you-know-what, who ever lived, that's chaste as snow, ice, you'll never escape what? What's calumny? Dirty talk behind your back. You could be the most virtuous, chaste person in the world, and people are still going to say, you don't feel you, man. Caught her with James over in the bush. Get thee to a nunnery. Farewell. Or if you're going to need marry a fool, for wise men know well enough what monsters you make of them. What monsters? Cuckolds. Marry a fool, because a fool won't know. Because wise men know every man who marries his wife makes him into what? A cuckold. Why? She's going to sleep around. Medieval Renaissance kind of commonplace. Women can't be satisfied with just one man. Yeah, I think it kind of worked the other way too, in terms of what they were suggesting. Heavenly powers restored him. So he says, I've heard of your paintings too. That is, makeup. He's not talking about Ophelia being another Leonardo. God hath given you one face, and you make yourselves another. You jig, you amble, you lisp, you nickname. That is, you put on this whole little persona. God's creatures, and you nickname God's creatures, make your wantonness your ignorance. Go to, I'll know more on it. It hath made me mad. That is, thinking about the games women play. You're playing a game with me right now. Those that are married already, all but one shall live. Who's the all but one? Claudius is going to die. Go to a nunnery. Hamlet leaves. Ophelia's on the stage. Oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown. The courtiers, soldiers, scholars, eye, tongue, sword. That is, Hamlet is the perfect exemplar of the courtier, the person who waits at court, the soldier, the scholar. Perfect exemplar how? Eye, what he sees, tongue, what he says, sword, how he fights. He is the model of a knight. The expectancy and rose of the fair state. Gotta be king. The glass of fashion, people look at him to figure out how should I dress. And the mold of form. The mold of form, I think, is the women looking at him going, oh, I wish my boyfriend looked like that. I wish my husband looked like that. The observed of all observers. Okay, the observed of all observers means he's the one in the fishbowl. And everybody's looking at him. But what else does it mean? He's also observing. He's also observant. Quite down. And I of ladies most deject and wretched. Notice, most. It doesn't get any more superlative than that. Why? That sucked the honey of his music vows. Oh, his vows were sweet, and I sucked those suckers dry. I mean, every last bit of sweetness. Now see that noble and most sovereign reason, like sweet bells jangled out of tune and harsh, that unmatched form and feature of blown youth, blasted with ecstasy. And ecstasy is when the soul travels out of the body. She's saying, that's not Hamlet. That's not the Hamlet I knew. That Hamlet's crazy. Woe is me, to have seen what I have seen, see what I see. Real quickly, to have seen what I've seen, see what I've seen. To see what I've seen previously when Hamlet loved me, and to see that now, as in I just saw it, and to see what I now see. And I think that to see what I now see is one, Hamlet in this state, and I could be wrong, but I think Ophelia might have an idea of what's going on. Not what's going on in terms of Claudius killing his brother, but what's going on in terms of she's being used as a pawn against Hamlet. That she now realizes, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have broken up with him. I should have done what my father asked me to do right here, right now. All right, we'll see where we get on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll finish Hamlet. I hope springs eternal. Wake up.